Welcome back. Been a while, it feels like, but here we are again. And now with the new kit from Worker. I know that these has been out for a while, but I was a little bit late to get the order in, and obviously it takes quite a while to get them. This is going to be a two-part series. First with the installation of this kit, and then the review to follow. I do have some questions about this kit, and some interesting things that I want to go over based on some information I have heard. So, in the kit, you obviously get the new release, the priming bar with new Picatinny for your attachments, the collapsible piece, new plunger tube, as well as the new metal catch and spring. Some of the information that I have heard is that the new plunger tube is a slightly larger inner diameter. So, I do want to take some measurements and see if it is slightly larger, because if it is slightly larger, that means there's more air volume, but we'll find out. But first thing we have to do is get back into the Nexus and take everything out. Let's get started. All right. Now all the accessories, the top rail risers, and everything else has been removed. Similar disassembly for these. We will have to remove the front priming handle as well, since we are going to be replacing the priming bar. So removing the handle, rear handle, and then obviously all the screws on the blaster. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, all screws have been loosened. Always remember to take care of the one that is directly underneath the handle grip. Now we just need to worry about the two tabs up here when prying this apart. Easiest thing I would always suggest is using a prying bar or prying tool. You can get these from Harbor Freight, Amazon. There's a lot of different places, but they're very good because they do not mar the plastics. So usually what I do is I will apply a little bit of pressure, be opening this up while pushing down on the tab here, and it already got that one open. And then the same thing on this other side here. And there we go. And then the rest of the blaster should easily pull right off. We'll put this off to the side for right now. I'm keeping the screws in just to kind of keep track of them, and that way there's a lot less of them rolling around on the desk. Now, I do want to have a quick discussion. I had somebody previously in one of my last videos ask about the AK Blaster Mod spring to ask if it was warping. And as I said before, I have no visible warping as of right now, but because I haven't run this in wars very often or done too much with this besides most of the testing, I haven't seen warping with the spring as of yet. So, just to help answer that question. Now, the rest of this is going to have to be disassembled. We need to remove the rest of the internals from the catch and plunger tube all the way up to the priming bar and Picatinny rail, which means we will also have to remove this screw right here on the breech block. We can actually start from the back by removing the catch first. We could pull the entire assembly out. Pull the plunger out, and keep aware of the little cap that goes over the spring. I'm going to keep that with the plunger head, actually. So from previous installations, we do have to worry about pushing this old pin out, either using a punch or some kind of a tool. I usually use pins from previous blasters. Now for ease when setting this up, like I said, I'm using a smaller pin that I pulled from an old blaster. I don't know, it's a parts pin. It fits into the same hole as the pin that's currently in. Using something that has a nice rubber handle, that way it's not marring or causing any problems. Holding the pin and the priming bar at the same time, can actually line this up while striking this with your hammer, and it should knock the pin out fairly easily. like so. Now that you have your priming bar separated from your pusher, we can now remove the entire priming bar. And if we want, can actually install it at this moment, but we will wait on that for right now while I actually go ahead and work on this side. The original pusher actually is threaded on, and it's very tight because it does have an O-ring on it. So this entire head piece is going to be replaced, and you are going to be rethreading onto here. I do suggest adding a little bit of lubricant, just so that way the new O-ring will be setting into the new pusher tubing nice and smoothly. Since we are already at this point, we can actually remove the plunger tube. Remember, you do need to reuse these O-ring bushings. These are padding. There is one both inside and outside of the tube. So make sure we remove both of those. And then lastly, removing the telescoping piece as well. Just as a note, you are going to have to reuse the O-rings on this piece to put on your new part. So don't get rid of these just yet. Now from here, I wanted to do some quick looks and inspection of the plunger tubes. Heights, they are the same. The inner diameters is what I'm interested in. So let's break out the calipers. The stock one is running at about 1.4 inch. Pretty consistent, 1.4, 1.401. Not that much of a difference. Let's check the new one. The aluminum one is 1.41314. So almost a 12 thousandths of an inch larger diameter. So yes, the new aluminum plunger tube is slightly larger inner diameter. So it does have a little bit more volume. Let's move on to replacing the O-rings on the new part. It'd be best to come from the backside, and you will want to re-lubricate this, so that way this has a good seal and less friction. With slight testing, I've already found that the sealing of these O-rings is better than the sealing off of the stock telescoping piece and plunger tube. When I originally did my testing from the last video, I found that I was actually having a small air leak from these. So that's already a much, much better performance from the stock parts. Next, we can actually put the pusher tubing through. We will pull the pusher tubing through, and there's our pusher telescoping piece and plunger tube all ready to go. Make sure that you add your bushing padding on the inside and as well on the outside of the plunger tube. You will want to press these all the way down to make sure that they are fit nice and snug. Now from this point, we are going to thread in the front pusher onto the pusher barrel. Be sure that this O-ring is lubricated before you go threading 100%. It needs to have lubrication to make sure that it can actually slip in here and make a airtight seal. It should be nice and slow, making sure that you keep eye out for any pinching. You do not want that O-ring to pinch. And that's it. If you do have enough lubrication, you might see a little bit of squeeze out, and at this point you can wipe that away. Now from here, if you haven't actually taken apart the breech block that's clamping onto the tube of the barrel. These are anodized parts. They should be able to withstand a little bit of abuse. If you want to snake it in this way, you can. It will slightly grind against this. There's enough of an area in the opening right here to do so. If you don't feel comfortable with it, take apart the block, slide in the tube of your barrel, and reattach it. It's really up to what you feel comfortable with doing. Once you've reassembled your block or snaked the barrel through the prime, make sure to relubricate the new O-ring on the pusher. So now we can actually start with reassembly. First, by putting on the centering lug onto the barrel. And I would also suggest putting the pusher into the breech to make for ease of installation by holding the pusher tubing and giving it a firm push into it. Now we should be able to take this entire assembly making sure to line up the lug, as well as making sure that the new priming bar actually sets in correctly. The breech is now on the peg, and the plunger tube is now sitting in the correct location. Next, screw the breech block back into place. Then we can actually go and install the new mag release by just pulling out the old mag release. We will reuse the spring. They do send a spacer along with the mag release. The spacer will have to go on first, then the new metal mag release, then install your spring. And that's it. So the mag release has been installed. Now we can move on to reinstalling the plunger back into the plunger tube. I currently used 3 wraps of Teflon, which still makes for a very good seal. But not so much that it's causing too much friction on there. I also relubricated the entire inside of the new plunger tube as well as the O-ring. Next, we can reinstall the catch, the new metal catch that we have. Now from here, we're basically ready to reassemble the blaster. The cap actually can be installed after on the spring before we put it all back together. But yeah, let's go ahead and put the shell back into place and button it up. Now the blaster is completely buttoned back up. Going to do a quick test fire to make sure everything's working fine. Plugging up the barrel to see also what kind of sealing we're getting. So let's give it a prime and a try. So just a quick test. Putting the thumb over the barrel. I would say that's a pretty darn good seal. That is the installation of the new worker kit for the metal priming bar, plunger tube, telescoping piece, mag release, and catch. Next, video, I will be going over a lot of the review, going over how it feels, and a lot of other testing to actually see what our chronograph numbers are, see if they've changed, has they gotten better, have they gotten worse, and if this kit is worth it. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, if you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and come check me out over on Twitch to keep up to date on my current mods I'm working on. I hope to see you there sometime.